Greetings, comrades. After a long hiatus, we are back with another piece of Chilling artwork. Now, this piece depends on how you translate the Chinese title. Could be known as Divine Intervention, or Divine Reconstruction, or something along those lines. Without further ado, let's crack on. In here, in the top left, you will notice Department of the Army, United States of America. This is the US Army emblem. Obviously, this is this setting of this piece of artwork is supposedly in the US bioweapons lab, represented at least by Fort Detrick. Now it says infectious area, authorized personnel only in here. And in this jar we can see it looks like some kind of roots or plant roots, but if you look carefully, these are actually human corpses. They are actually hominoid, anthropoidic, rather disturbing anthropoidic figures. We're going to come on to those later. Here you can see Uncle Sam. This could be Biden, but then this could also be it could also be Adolf Hitler, because if you can look at the toothbrush mustache here, he is not wearing his hat. He's holding his hat in his hand. Look at what he is wearing. He is wearing the crown of the Lady of Liberty, the Statue of Liberty. Here we see the world, the brain, and we can see these probes being stuck in the brain. Rather disturbing image in the shape of a crown or corona. Crown, corona, crown. And look what part of the world's been cut away. It is Europe. Yep, that symbolizes a huge proportion of US bioweapons labs are in Europe, or Greater Europe. Here we can see this guy painting the word China onto this X-ray, this chest X-ray. 619,000 to 330,000. Sorry, 619,000 to 633,000. This is obviously referring to the number of COVID deaths in the United States as of I believe it's last summer, but we'll have to check. Do you notice something about the uniform? And this rather disturbing armband. We're going to come on to that later. Let's move on to this figure here. You can see this guy is injecting something into this guy's, the world's lungs, directly into the world's lungs. You can see this needle has penetrated deep inside the lung, obviously pumping virus or some sort of bioweapons. Look at this uniform. We're going to come on to this uniform later. For now, over here you can see the bonds, the shackles tying the world down. This is the Twitter bird. This is a microchip, an F-22 fighter plane, and a dollar symbol, symbolizing the Wall Street financiers, the military-industrial complex, the big tech, and media domination that the US imposes upon this world. American imperial, the four pillars, if you will, of American imperialism. Of course, I would add a fifth pillar, which is resource domination. But I suppose that could tie into the economic domination. If we take the dollar domination and widen it a bit, you could say it's part of the American imperialism's economic domination of the world. Moving on, you can see another dollar sign here. Presumably there's the same shackles hidden behind Uncle Sam's legs. Looks a bit like Biden, but it could also be Hitler. Now, look at the caption. I grant you a new corona. Obviously referring both to this, the crown of Lady Liberty in New York, and also this corona, the protein nodules of the coronavirus. Now, let's look at these two heads. This one is clearly Shiro Ishii. Shiro Ishii, for those who don't know, was head of Imperial Japanese Army's Unit 731. Now, he was a medically trained doctor, but instead of healing people, his job was, and his fascination, was investigation into biological weaponry. And Unit 731, for those who don't know, carried out infamous bioweapon experiments upon Chinese civilians, and not just experiments, but actual attacks as well against Chinese civilians and Russian and American prisoners of war, and also American just American civilians even that have been captured, missionaries, or any even Japanese prisoners of conscience, venereal diseases, all sorts of diseases were experimented with in Unit 731. After the war, you'd think he'd be on trial and executed, but no, he actually exchanged his studies and his paperwork and his knowledge in return for immunity, pardon the pun. And he went on to work in Fort Detrick for the US Army. Now, also, the United States still denies this to this day, but there is evidence of bioweapons being used in the Korean War as well by the US forces against Korean and Chinese civilians. over here is a Nazi, some sort of Nazi. He could be Dr. Mendele. He could also be Dr. Taub, who was a specialist in eugenics and genetics, and an animal veterinarian, and by trade. So now we can reveal who these anthropoidic figures represent. They represent the victims of Unit 731 and the Holocaust. Now you can see the heads of these two figures have been removed and replaced with these grotesque monster-like things. They look like sea creatures because their heads are here. Now this Nazi could also be representing Dr. Goebbels, the propaganda minister, because look what he's trying to do. He's trying to frame China here in the propaganda war. So it's not too much of a stretch to presume this guy represents Dr. Goebbels. So that is everything I can gather from this piece of artwork. Divine reconstruction, or divine conversion, or divine intervention. That's what the Chinese title translates as 神灵改造. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and see you in the next one. Peace out.